Most people think traveling Europe is exhausting. It's too much planning, too many trains, too many mistakes. I used to think the same thing. But after crossing Europe using only public transport, I realized something most travelers never do. Europe isn't difficult to travel. It's unforgiving if you don't understand how it works. The stress people feel isn't bad luck, it's bad systems. And once you fix the system, Europe becomes easier than traveling almost anywhere else in the world. In this video, I'll show you why most people struggle and how to travel Europe the right way. Chapter 1. Why Europe feels hard, but is not. Europe doesn't overwhelm people because it's complicated. It overwhelms them because expectations are wrong. Most travelers arrive believing Europe works like one giant theme park, each city isolated, each country a reset, every move requiring perfect planning. So they build tight itineraries. They schedule every hour. They leave no room for error. And the moment something changes, a delayed train, a missed connection, a platform switch, stress takes over. But Europe was never designed for that kind of travel. It was designed to be lived in. The infrastructure wasn't built for visitors. It was built for daily life. Trains don't exist for tourists. They exist for workers commuting before sunrise, students traveling between cities, families visiting each other every weekend, elderly people moving independently without cars. That's why the system feels rigid to outsiders. It doesn't pause. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't adapt to confusion. You adapt to it. Once I stopped trying to bend Europe around my plans and started moving the way locals do, everything changed. Routes connected. Transfers made sense. Cities stopped feeling far apart. The problem was never Europe. It was the belief that travel needs total control. And that belief is exactly what makes Europe feel hard. Until you let it go. Perfect. This is where we introduce tension and make the lesson felt, not just understood. Chapter 2. The mistake that ruins most Europe trips. The mistake that ruins most Europe trips doesn't happen in a city.
It happens between them.
That's where people lose time, money, and confidence. They treat movement as something to get through, not something to understand. So they book the fastest option. They chase the cheapest fare. They stack connections too close together. On paper, it looks efficient. In reality, it's fragile. One delayed train, one crowded platform, one misunderstood announcement. And suddenly, the entire day collapses. I watched it happen again and again. People sprinting through stations, arguing with ticket machines, paying for taxis they never planned to use. It's not because Europe failed them, but because their plan had no margin. European transport isn't designed for perfection. It's designed for flow. Miss a connection, and the system still works if you know how to stay inside it. Most travelers don't. They panic. Force fixes and break out of the system completely. That's the moment Europe feels hard. Not when something goes wrong, but when you stop. Letting the system carry you forward, this is where everything clicks for the viewer. Calm replaces stress. Confusion turns into clarity. Chapter 3. How Europe's transport system actually works. Once I stopped fighting the system, I started seeing the pattern. European transport isn't a collection of routes. It's a network. Every train, every bus, every platform exists to feed something else. High-speed trains move people between major cities. Regional trains connect smaller towns. Local buses finish the journey cars usually handle. Nothing is isolated. That's why missing one train rarely ends a trip, unless you force it to. Stations aren't chaos. They're choreography. Timetables are layered. Connections are intentional. Backup routes exist quietly in the background. The key isn't speed, it's alignment. When you give yourself margin, the system absorbs mistakes for you. Miss one connection, another appears. Take a slower train, and you arrive with less stress. The moment I stopped rushing, Europe didn't slow me down. It carried me forward. I wasn't traveling inefficiently. I was finally traveling the way the system was built to be used. This chapter flips a deeply held belief and gives the viewer a quiet "oh" moment. Chapter 4. Why cars make Europe harder. Cars promise freedom. In Europe, they deliver friction. Traffic zones you don't recognize. Cameras that find you weeks later. City centers designed to keep cars out, not welcome them in. Don't arrive where you want to be, you arrive near it, then you search, then you pay, then you stress. Meanwhile, public transport drops you exactly where life is happening. Train stations sit in city hearts. Bus stops open into old towns. Connections end steps from cafes, markets, and streets meant for people. No parking, no backtracking, no constant decision-making. The freedom cars advertise is replaced by responsibility Europe never intended you to carry. With public transport, movement becomes background noise. You look out the window, you notice places, you arrive with energy instead of exhaustion. In Europe, cars don't expand your experience, they shrink it. Public transport doesn't limit where you go, it removes the weight of how you get there. This is where the lesson deepens and the value locks in. Not just money, but mental clarity. Chapter 5. The hidden cost of traveling the wrong way. Here's what surprised me the most. The biggest savings weren't financial, they were mental. I stopped checking maps every 5 minutes, stopped calculating fuel, tolls, and parking. I stopped making constant micro decisions just to keep moving. One ticket replaced a dozen problems. When transport is predictable, your mind stops working overtime. That's the cost no one budgets for decision fatigue. Bad travel planning forces you to spend money to fix stress. Extra nights, last-minute taxis, emergency bookings that feel necessary in the moment. Good planning removes the stress before it appears. Public transport didn't just save me euros, it gave me back attention. And when you're no longer exhausted by logistics, travel becomes what it was supposed to be all along. Ending. What Europe is actually teaching you. Europe doesn't reward control, it rewards alignment. The moment I stopped trying to dominate every mile, the journey started working for me. Public transport didn't just move me across countries. It taught me how to travel with less friction and more presence. When you trust the system, mistakes stop feeling like failures. They become part of the flow. So if you're planning a Europe trip and wondering whether you really need a car, you don't. Not if you're willing to travel the way Europe was built to be traveled. In my next video, I break down the easiest European routes for first-time public transport travelers, including where to start, what to avoid, and how to move confidently without stress. Watch that next. It completes this journey.